Negative cash flow, 15,000. I ran out of money when I made this common mistake, but not long after that, just hit $1 million. So I'll show you what that mistake is and what I'm doing now to make sure it doesn't happen again so I can actually keep that money. I made this mistake in my business last year and I was so embarrassed. I don't think I even told my husband. I had to turn off my salary for a couple of months just to make sure I could still pay my team. And I think I just racked up credit card debt. So that could have been a lot worse. But the crazy part is I've learned this lesson before in my personal finances, maybe about 10 years previously. I made a similar mistake. And then thanks to my husband Cody's strategies, I got super on top of my finances when I had a steady office paycheck. But it's easy to get busy and distracted. And now as a business owner, income and expenses change dramatically from month to month, quarter to quarter, unlike when I had a steady office job. So let me show you where the mistake happened. So this is Q4 2024 cash flow. For the whole quarter is about 2,000 positive. Not great, but not too bad either. Here is Q3, so we were positive about 10,000. Q2 was positive about another 10,000. And Q1, negative cash flow, 15,000. So what happened here? To make sense of how this mistake can happen not once but twice, I'll need to give you a bit of a background on my business expenses and incomes and how it all works so that it makes sense. So I'm gonna have you take a look into my finance analytics for all of 2024 so that you can see kind of this income expenses breakdown as a full-time YouTuber. Because this part is really important to understand how this mistake happened where I ran out of money for a couple of months. Okay, so this is a breakdown of my expenses and income for all of 2024. So even though that big mistake happened early in the year, I was still able to come out positive for the year. So my income is pretty big bulk of it is sponsors, AdSense, and affiliates. So my biggest portion is contractors, so video editors and videographers. I have a bookkeeper as well so that I can just focus on the content strategy and making the videos. And then the next biggest one is owner's pay, which was less since I turned off my salary for a bit. And travel expenses, traveling to make videos, recurring expenses like softwares that I use like TubeBuddy and vidIQ for SEO optimization, music licensing, a whole bunch of stuff. Insurance for my motorcycle, because that's what my channel's about. It's about motorcycles. So the way I get paid, as you saw, the bulk of my income is AdSense and sponsorships. I do plan on changing that this year by adding some other income streams, which I will share later this year, depending on how it goes. So as a motorcycle channel, at least for me right now, the way my content strategy is kind of goes with the riding season, just because my best performing videos that I know how to do are usually with me riding. And those, of course, are seasonal. Yeah, you might think, well, why can't you just ride a lot and bulk a lot and keep having them out through the winter? That's much easier said than done. So the first few months of the year, AdSense is usually lowest because not only do advertisers pay the least from January through March, at least on a motorcycle channel, AdSense is much lower. And then on top of that, my views are lower just because I'm coming out of the winter and a lot of those videos are either gonna be like in the office, talking head, or just some videos that historically haven't performed as well. So with views are down, sponsorships, at least the sponsors I have, they usually don't pay either for the first couple of months of the year. They rather have their integrations starting in the spring because that's usually when people are riding and interested in buying stuff for riding. So those first few months of the year, the two biggest income streams I have are either non-existent or very low. But now look closely at expenses. Expenses for Q1, $32,000. Q2, $38,000. Q3, $35,000. Q4, $41,000. So expenses aren't changing as much as the income. So sure, that seems totally logical. Keep your expenses below your income, right? But you'd be surprised how often this actually happens to people, even who have a steady paycheck. And it's just because the most common mistake is that very few people don't actually track their expenses. Not a lot of people can answer these few questions. How much are you taking home per month? How much are you spending per month on everything? And then even broken it down. How much are you spending on going out and eating, on shopping, on groceries, on gas? So when I first made this mistake in my personal finances over 10 years ago, it wasn't that I didn't have a steady paycheck, it's that I just wasn't tracking. So I was traveling everywhere, I was scuba diving, I was buying all these cool camera equipment, getting into photography, and my money was just slowly dwindling to the point that I thought, when I finally looked into my bank account, I thought someone had hacked into my bank account and stolen all my money. But no, it was just me. And at this point, my husband, we were newly dating, and I knew he was really into organization and his finances and budgeting and all that stuff. So I asked him kind of how that all works. And he basically showed me the system I'm showing you right now of budgeting. So let me show you what that looks like. So let's go into December of last year. So now I have a budget set for expenses, kind of already set, and income, expected income. So this helps a lot when you have multiple income streams, and maybe if it's volatile as well, you can kind of get ahead of yourself and say, okay, so now that I know that from January through February, I'm not gonna get any sponsorship money, so let me mark that to 0 when I come to January, February, so I can kind of look at a glance how much money is coming in. But another issue I was doing was that the expenses were still high in that first quarter because that's when I started production again, especially in those first couple of months when the least amount of money is coming in. So as you can see now, I have an estimate, even though it is volatile, AdSense and sponsorships, I kind of have an average of what to expect. So this one's December, the 3 months. So usually the last quarter of the year, that's when my AdSense has historically been higher. One, because advertisers pay more on YouTube for the holidays, around the holidays, but also I just coincidentally have happened to have better performing videos then too. So I have an average of what to expect, and I just kind of tell myself that, okay, but first quarter, like this income average is probably not gonna be your average. So I kind of have an idea, as you can see in this section here, planned and actual. See how you can kind of, this is my planned income I was thinking I'd get about $13,000. Actual ended up being about $13,000. And planned expenses were also pretty close to planned and actual. And so no surprises there. If you haven't done this before, if this all looks very overwhelming, I think the best way to get started on budgeting is to just track what you're doing. This has actually been very successful for people trying to lose or gain weight too. Before they start trying to lose or gain weight, just track your activity and your weight on a regular basis for about a month so you have a baseline, and that's when you learn exactly what you're eating, what your activity is, to see where you need to add or decrease or whatever. And so budgeting is similar. You just track yourself, and sometimes even just the act of tracking, sometimes that's enough to already improve habits, but that's not part of the first step. The first step is just track in whatever budgeting software you use. And then once you've tracked it even for a month, and then again at 2 or 3 months, that's when you can start making decisions and seeing what changes you want to do. And just because you've made mistakes doesn't mean that you're a failure and now you can't do anything. Like now my business makes 3 times what I was making at my office job. And there's still plenty of things I'm not done with doing. There's still plenty of income streams I'm still working on adding this year. As my Mr. Miyagi of YouTube, that is Daryl Eves, says, that your AdSense should really only be about 10% of your YouTube income. And right now for me, it's about 40. So I've got some big projects I'm working on, some new income streams that I'll make sure to share with you later this year on how that performs. And the great thing about business is, unlike when I was a full-time product designer, I could work so hard all year and maybe I'd get a $1,000 raise. But now when you own your own business, it's really up to you and your imagination. each year I've had an almost 30% growth. And right now it's February 1st of 2025. Just 1 month into the year, sponsorships for 2024 is already 20% higher than it was the year before. And that $1 million net worth I talked about didn't just come from that YouTube channel. It's also come from some good habits of automated saving and investing, and also some hands-on investing through real estate, but also a lot of luck. And if you're interested in learning more about those things, be sure to subscribe for more. Now that you know how to make sure that you keep and multiply that money, I'll show you how I make money on YouTube, 6 income streams and counting, in this video right over here.